He's a turn-up-stuffer and gets into a fight. Anika woke especially early the next morning. She bounded out of bed and quickly padded over to Tommy. "Wake up, Tommy," she said, tugging at his arm. "Let's go and see that funny girl with the big shoes." In an instant, Tommy was wide awake. "All the time that I was sleeping, I knew there was going to be something nice about today, though I couldn't remember just what it was," he said, struggling out of his pajama top. Then they both went into the bathroom, washed themselves, and brushed their teeth much faster than usual. They were merry and quick about putting on their clothes, and a whole hour earlier than their mother had expected, they came sliding down the banister from the top floor and landed exactly by the breakfast table, where they sat down and shouted that they wanted their chocolate now and at once. "And may I ask," said their mother, "just what it is that's making you in such a hurry?" "We're going over to see the new girl in the house next door," said Tommy. "We might stay all day," said Anika. That morning Pippi was making ginger snaps. She had made a huge pile of dough and was rolling it out on the kitchen floor. "'Cause, can you imagine," said Pippi to a little monkey, "what earthly good a pastry board would be when you're making it at least 500 ginger snaps?" There she lay on the floor and cut out heart-shaped ginger snaps as if her life depended on it. "Do stop walking in the dough, Mr. Nelson," she said irritably, just as the doorbell rang. Pippi ran to open it. She was white as a miller from top to toe. And when she shook hands heartily with Tommy and Nika, a whole cloud of flour came down on them. "How nice of you to drop in," she said, shaking a new cloud of flour out of her apron. Tommy and Nika got so much of it in their throats they had to cough. "What are you doing?" said Tommy. "Well, if I say I'm sweeping the chimney, you wouldn't believe me, as clever as you are," said Pippi. "As a matter of fact, I'm baking. But that will be soon out of the way. You can sit on the wood box in the meantime." Pippi could work very fast. Tom and Nika sat on the wood box and watched how she cut her way forward through the dough, and how she threw the biscuits on the tins, and how she slung the tins into the ovens. They thought it was all rather like something in the films. "All clear," said Pippi at last, slamming the oven door after the last tins with a bang. "What are we going to do now?" asked Tommy. "I don't know what you're thinking of doing," said Pippi, "but as for me, I'm not one who can take things easy. I happen to be a turnsupstuffer, and of course I can never have a free moment." "What did you say you were?" said Anika. "A turn-up-stuffer." "What's that?" said Tommy. "Someone who finds that stuff turns up if only you look, of course. What else could it be?" said Pippi, sweeping together all the flour on the floor into a little pile. "The whole world is filled with things that are just waiting for someone to come along and find them, and that's just what a turns-up-stuffer is." "What sort of things?" said Anika. "Oh, all sorts," said Pippi. "Gold nuggets and ostrich feathers and dead mice and rubber bands and tiny little grouse, that kind of things." Tommy and Nika thought it sounded a great deal of fun, and at once wanted to become a turn-up-stuffers too. Tommy said he had hoped he'd find a gold nugget and not a little goose. "We'll have to wait and see," said Pippi. "You always find something, but we'll have to hurry up so the other turn-up-stuffers don't come first and take away all the gold nuggets and things that are waiting hereabouts." The three turn-up-stuffers set out. They thought it was the best to begin hunting around the houses in the neighborhood, because Pippi said that even if there were little grouse deep in the woods, the very best things were almost always found near where people lived. "Though not always," she said. "I've seen it just the other way about. I remember a time when I was looking for things in the jungles of Borneo, right in the middle of a wild jungle, there where no man has ever put his foot on. Where do you suppose I found a lovely wooden leg? I gave it away later to an old man who was just one-legged, and he told me the money couldn't buy a wooden leg like that. Tommy and Nika watched Pippi to see how the turnip-stuffers should act. She ran from one side of the road to the other, shading her eyes with one hand and searching and searching. Once in a while she crept up on her knees and stuck her hands in through the fence and saying it in a disappointed voice, "Strange, I was sure I saw a gold nugget." "Can you really take anything you find?" asked Anika. "Yes, anything that's lying on the ground," said Pippi. A little further on, an old man lay sleeping on the lawn in front of his house. "That's lying on the ground," said Pippi, "and we found him. We'll take him." Tommy and Nika were horrified. "No, no, Pippi, we can't take a gentleman. That would never do," said Tommy. "Anyway, what would we do with him?" "What would we do with him? We could use him for lots of things. We could keep him in a little rabbit hutch instead of a rabbit and feed him dandelion leaves. But if you don't want to, we can leave him here for all I care. Still, I hate to think that some other turnip-stuffer may come along and carry him off." They went on. Suddenly Pippi gave a wild shriek. "Well, I never saw the likes!" she cried, picking up the old rusty cake tin out of the grass. "What a find! What a find! One can never have too many tins." Tommy looked rather suspiciously at the tin and asked, "What can you use that for?" "It can be used for lots of things," said Pippi. "One way is to put cakes in it. That will be one of those tins with cakes. Another way is not to put cakes in it. There will be a tin without cakes, which isn't quite as nice, but it will well enough too." She inspected the tin, which really was quite rusty, and had a hole in the bottom. "It looks as if this one is a tin without cakes," she said thoughtfully. "But you can put it over your head and pretend it's the middle of the night." And she did just that. With the tin over her head, she wandered through the neighborhood like a little tin tower, and she didn't stop before she fell on her stomach over a wire fence. There was a traffic crash when the cake tin hit the ground. "There you see," said Pippi, removing the tin. "If I hadn't had this on me, I would have fallen face first and knocked myself silly." "Yes, but," said Anika, "if you hadn't had the tin on you, then you would never have tripped over the fence." But before she had finished speaking, another shriek came from Pippi, who had triumphantly held up an empty cotton reel. "It seems to be my lucky day today," she said. "What a perfectly sweet little reel to blow up soap bubbles with, or to hang up on the string around my neck for a necklace. I want to go home and do it now." Just then the gate to a nearby house opened, and the little boy rushed out. He looked frightened, which wasn't surprising, for hard on his heels came up 5 other boys. They soon got hold of him and pushed him against the fence, where the whole lot attacked him. All 5 began hitting him at the same time. He cried and tried to shield his face with his arms. "On him, blokes!" yelled the biggest and the strongest of the boys. "See, so he'll never dare show himself in the street again." "Oh," said Anika, "that's Willie, and they're beating. Oh, they can be so horrid." "It's the beastly bent, always fighting," said Tommy. "And 5 against 1, what cowards." Pippi went up to the boys and tapped Ben on the back with her finger. "You there," she said. "Do you mean to make a pulp of little Willie on the spot, since 5 of you are at him at once?" Bench turned around and saw a girl he never met before. An unruly, strange girl who dared to poke him.